Hi everyone, this video is a quick little video to take you to the next step after you collect your data. So what we're going to talk about is how to get your data set out of Qualtrics and into SPSS. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you as always, and we'll talk a little bit about Qualtrics. So here is your Qualtrics projects, and most of our projects are active and collecting data. Right now, that's all you're doing in this class, really. You're sitting back waiting for your data to roll in. And while you're doing that, this is a great time to be starting to write that paper because really we're just in data collection for the next 2 weeks. And again, not only do you want to post this to your accounts, but ask your friends to post it to theirs. Whatever we can do to get a little more data. Ask your parents to post it to their social media if they have social media. You're really going to have to beg people to take your surveys. So once you do have all of your data collected, to download this into SPSS is a fairly simple process. We are going to be working with a different data set this time for your next kind of assignment. I am going to go ahead and take a look at my professor leadership survey, and I'm going to be downloading this into SPSS. So I have all my data, and I'm going to go up into the right-hand menu buttons up here, and I'm going to click on data analysis. So I'm going to click on that. And from there, I'm going to go over to the far left, and I want to import export data. That's what we're doing. We're going to export this data out of here and into SPSS now. So we're going to click on that and click on export data. And then this box is going to come up and it's going to say, where do you want to export your data to? And of course, we are going to choose SPSS. So we are going to click on that and hit download. And that's going to take just a few moments to download. It is ready. So I'm going to close that out. I'm going to open my file. Notice that my file shows up in my downloads. I need to click on that and boom, I'm in SPSS. My file is here. So we can now start working in SPSS, but let me stop you before you go any farther. Before you change anything on this data set, you're going to come up and hit File, Save As, and you are going to save this as original download. And the reason this is really an important step, the reason you're doing this as we begin to start reversing scores and summating scores, it is so easy to mess up the data set, and we don't want to have to go back to Qualtrics and re-download it. So original download, this is it, and we're going to hit save. And I asked me if I had that file. I already do, so I've saved it. Now we can start switching numbers, reversing scores, and doing things like that. We don't want to, we always want to make sure we've got a clean original copy of the data set in SPSS as backup. So the next thing I'm going to want to do is, as you've noticed here, I have my questions, but they are not the questions to my code book. So I really don't know what I'm doing until I go in and recode those. So we're going to have to do that. I am going to go ahead and check on my data view because I'm going to clean this up. Remember, I only really care about the data. All this is extra. So I'm going to go all the way down because I have 489 surveys in here. And after I highlight all of this garbage, just data I don't need, I am going to very pleasantly hit delete. Now I am left with just my data, which is all I need. Looks like it's taking its time deleting that out, or did I miss the first 2 rows? I might have missed the first 2 rows, so I'm panicking a little. Did I get that right? Why didn't it delete exactly as I wanted? I think I grabbed something wrong. All right, maybe it's still trying to do its thing. All right, there we go. Now I have just my data. Sorry about that. All right, so here is just my data. I didn't need any of that front stuff, but I've still got a problem before I can start analyzing, doing things to it. I really need to go back and label these variables in here. So I need to pull up my code book. I'm going to go ahead and go to my desktop, and hopefully I can find my code book. It should be around somewhere. Professor Leadership with Code Book. Excellent. So I'm going to pull this up, and I can have this up next to me, and this tells me all of my questions. So I'm going to click on these, and I'm going to start changing them. AL1, enter, AL, whoop, sorry. And now I don't want to do all of this because I imagine this will bore you to death, but you know, AL1, AL2. So that's what we need to do though. It's again becomes tedious, but this is how we deal with and label our data. So AL1, AL2, AL3. Then as I get to a new construct, guess what? I've got to change that. So question 18, I already know that's a different construct, and I've labeled it SL1 and SL2. I have another construct in here. It starts on 27. So for question 27, I start a new variable that is communication outside 1, and I'm going to change that as well. So you're going to change all those variables to get them in to the right order so you know what you're dealing with so you can start some analysis. I'm going to stop there, and I'll pick back up in a little bit with some basic analysis again in terms of descriptives, even summation of variables, and reverse scoring of variables. So we'll be back once I get the data set all cleaned up and labeled. Okay, so I cleaned up the data set and we are back and ready to go through some basic steps. So I'm going to do these in order the same way that I want you to do them. So we downloaded out of Qualtrics, we exported our data into SPSS. I just showed you how to do that. And I said, you're going to save your original download right away. Don't even mess with it. Just save that. Now you can update and save again. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to save as, believe it or not, it says survey with codebook. That's exactly what I want it to say now. Oh, did I hit on the wrong thing. Sorry. It went to the Word, not SPSS. File, save as. Instead of original download, I'm now going to change this to codebook. Codebook. Save everything. I cannot even tell you how important this is. So now again, I have a clean data set with a codebook all saved. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel this output. I don't need to save that. I've got my data set. So I went in, I labeled all my variables here. As you can see, I can go into my data view now, and I've got everything up top just as I need it, and life is good. Now, the next thing, the next step, I've gotten my data into SPSS. I've labeled everything. I now need to deal with reverse scores before anything else. And I go back to my code book. And I'm very fortunate in this case, this survey has no reverse questions, has no R's. I can also look at my questions and read them and say, you know what, they're all positively balanced. There's nothing asking the opposite or something in a negative or reverse way. So I'm very sure I've got everything I need. I don't need to reverse score. Now, if I did have reverse score questions, I need to do this in my data set right off. I need to fix this. So remember, we're going to go back up to transform, not analyze, and compute variable. Nope. I'm sorry. Transform, recode into same variable, recode. All right. And we're going to display variable names. See, they're all in here. I know what all these mean, everything. I do not have any, but if I knew that AL13 was, I would take that question and put it in there. Then I would go to old and new values and put in the old value. If it's a 1, it's going to become a 5. Add. If it's a 2, it's going to become a 4. Add. And you should be able to do this in one fell swoop. Put all your reverse score questions into the box at the same time. So if I know that AL10 is also a reverse score, I should, oh, nope, it's not going to let me put multiple reverse scores in the box. Hold on. Yeah, it will. You just got to gather them all together. So you only have to do it once. Put all your reverse scores in there. Any questions that are reverse scores, that's how you're going to do it. Now I'm really at a great point. I am ready to start analyzing my data, and this is awesome. So the very first thing I'm going to analyze is something we've already done, but this is exactly what you're going to do. I want to look at my alpha levels. So I'm going to go to Scale, Reliability Analysis. And of course, I want to know how reliable are the scales I used. This is a very simple data set, even though it's very large. I did not use anything with a lot of subscales or anything at all like that. So I've kept this data set pretty simple. And that's one of the things you learn as you design research studies. How complex do you want your data to be? So all 17 questions are in there now. I'm going to go ahead over to statistics, item scale, scale if deleted, correlations, means, variances. That all looks good. Continue. I'm going to hit OK. Wow, look at that. That's awesome. Yay me. 0.90 Chromebox Alpha. Normally I might even print this out because I'm actually still writing up this research, but there's my Chromebox Alpha. Is this first scale reliable? Absolutely. That looks great. All right, now I've got to do my next scale. So you have to find reliability for every single scale that you use. So let's go back to analyze. Scale, reliability analysis. So these all checked out. That was wonderful. Oh, I'm having a hard time grabbing things with the mouse. Me and mouse don't get along very well, but what is going on? These should not, are these, did I duplicate? No. All right. Sorry, that was just me being a dork. All right. So my next scale is this SL1. So I'm going to grab, there's only 9 of these questions. Going to grab all those and throw them in. I've already got all my statistics set. I'm going to hit OK. And whoo, this is the first time I'm running this data. So this is really scary. I got a 0.826 is my second scale reliable. Yes, indeed. This is, I'm feeling good. I am feeling good. All right, got one more scale I'm going to analyze scale, reliability analysis. I'm going to grab all these again and dump them out. And I got one more scale I got to analyze, and that's this CO scale. So I'm going to grab all of these and put them in. Same thing, I'm just going to hit OK, and 0.867. Everything in my survey is reliable. Beautiful, beautiful. So now I've done that. All right, I'm not going to save the output because I don't need to. So the next step in this process now is going to be to summate my variables, because again, I've got to get the averages of all the people, not just one question. So summating, remember we talked about, it's a little tedious, but it's the next step. After you reverse score, after you get your alphas, then we're going to summate. So we're going to do the summation again. We're going to go back up to transform. And this is the compute variable one. So we've got to do some summation. And remember, you've always got to have a label too. So I'm going to call this AL sum, because that's going to be the first one. Always start with your brackets. And then we're going to AL1 plus AL2 plus AL3, AL4, AL5. Okay, whoops, I forgot to put 5 in. See, and that's why it's easy to make mistakes because, again, it's very detailed work and can get tedious. So, and there's really no faster way, but we're making formulas to analyze and give us our data. So, almost forgot the plus. Almost there, guys. Hang in there with me. I got 13 plus 14 in there. And how many variables is what I'm going to divide by. So this is AL stands for authentic leadership. Go outside the bracket, divide by, of course, is going to be 17. And I'm going to hit OK. That's all I need to do. Now that is summated. And it says it executed it. So it's done. So I can just exit. I don't need to save that. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the far right. And I should have my AL sum. Here it is. And now, let me show you a little bit. You can even analyze your descriptive statistics just on AL sum, on the summated scale. So let's throw that in there. Go to options. All that looks good. We've got the mean. Continue. Hit OK. So that sum, the mean for authentic leadership was a 3.86 across the board. So that's what we get from 477 cases. All right, pretty cool stuff. What does that mean? Well, that's the mean sum for that variable. So when we report our descriptive statistics, that's going to be the mean, that's going to be the standard deviation, and the alpha level is going to be the last one in our descriptive statistic chart. This is a good mean. Basically what this mean is saying right now is most students at San Diego State tend to think their teachers are more authentic in their leadership than not. So that's kind of what that's saying. All right, now I've still got to summate more variables, but before I do that, since this is summated, why don't we run this against a t-test for genders? So let's go ahead and analyze, and we're going to look at comparing means, because that's what a t-test does, independent sample t-test. We're going to click on that. Going back to I need to change the defaults, because that would be best. So here are my variables that I want to look at. I'm going to put in authentic leadership, and grouping variable, I'm going to say is sex of the student. This is actually the sex of the professor, which could be interesting. Let's throw that in there instead. And I have to define groups. If I have forgotten, I go, oh no, how did I define that? I can go back to my code book. I know I defined one as being 1 is males and 2 is females. So I just hit continue. Check my options. We look good. Let's hit OK. Now, remember, this is where we got a little confused. Is there a difference between men and women in professors in authentic leadership? So far, I can tell you I am not seeing a difference. There was an evenly split here of males and females, the sex of professor. That's interesting, but unfortunately, nothing here. Look at your significant levels, nothing that is 0.05 or lower. So when it comes to the sex of the professor, there is not a difference in authentic leadership use. Bummer, kind of sad. I was hoping there would be. All right, there wasn't. What about in the way the sex of the student perceives them? Could we run that t-test? Sure, let's try it. Analyze, compare means, independent sample t-test. Let's throw that out. I'm going to leave my grouping variable there. Or no, actually put AL sum back in. Sorry, I'm going to throw the grouping variable out. And I'm going to look at sex of the student who took the survey. So I've got to define groups. Male is still 1, 2 is still female. Continue. Okay. Yeah, nothing. Nothing. There is no difference in perception of the student between male and female students who took this survey in authentic leadership. I look at my F test, remember assumed equal variances. I do not have anything 0.05 or below at all. It's very sad. So yeah. Bummer. So I'm not finding much with these t-tests, but that's all right. Could